Dear students, welcome to Mayura Virtual Academy. In this session, we'll be learning in detail about the lifecycle components, lifecycle callbacks of activity component. In the previous session, we have learnt the different callbacks that is present in the lifecycle of an activity. So here, we'll understand how different callbacks are called during different scenarios. So whenever the application or the activity is created, by default, Android Studio will be creating an onCreate method, which will be the entry point for that activity. Now let us include the other callbacks that is present in the activity lifecycle component. The first one is onStart method. Next is onResume callback. Next is onPause callback. Next is onStop callback. Finally, it is onDestroy callback method. So Android provides different ways to debug the applications. One such is log utilities. In the log utilities, there are different ways we can display the information for debugging purposes. One is log.debugging, that is D. If you want to display any error message, we'll be using log.e and many more. In our scenario, we'll be using debugging things, so we'll be using log.d, log, and it will be having it will be taking two parameters. One is tag and other one is the message that we need to display for the debugging purpose. Since in the background, Android system will be running many processes, and it will be very difficult for us to identify our changes or our debugging messages. So we'll be using the constant tag name. In this scenario, I'll be using the tag name as Srinivas, and the message for this we can put as I'm in onCreate method. The same thing we can copy into other callback methods, and we can change the message that we need to display during the debugging purpose. So in the onStart method, we can change the message as onStart method. The onResume, we can display it as I'm in onResume method. In the onPause method, we can give the message as I'm in onPause method. For the onStop, we can give the information or the message as I'm in onStop method. Finally, for onDestroy, we can display the message as I'm in onDestroy method. So once the changes is done, you can save your changes and generate the APK by clicking on Run button. Once the Gradle is completed and the APK is generated and pushed into the emulator, we can check our debugging logs from the log monitor, logcat monitor of Android Studio. So you can expand this. So as I told earlier, we'll be having many logs. So if you don't find logcat monitor, you can click on Android monitor so that the logcat monitor will be displayed, and it will have many logs. So to differentiate the system logs from our application logs, we'll be using the tags. So here you can select say based on whatever the thing that we have used, we can select. In our case, it is debugging purpose. We have used the log.d, and to differentiate our changes, we can give our tag name, that is Srinivas here, so that we can see the messages only from our application. So whenever the application is launched, it will be calling these callbacks. First, it will be calling onCreate callback, then it will be entering into onStart callback, where it will be very transient, and it will be moving into onResume callbacks, where it will be the UI or the application will be visible to the user, and user can have interaction with it, the application. Let's clear these logs. The other scenario is the application is in the foreground, and the user clicks on home button. In such scenarios, from onResume method, the onPause callback will be invoked, and it will be very transient, and it will be moving into onStop callback method. The application still will be running in the background, but it will not be visible to the user. So whenever the user clicks on, once again, the launches the application from home activity or the home button, the application will not be recreated again. In the sense, from onStart, it will be calling onStart callback, and then it will be entering into onResume, where once again the user can have interaction with the application. The other scenario is the application is in the foreground and the user want to close the application. So in such scenarios, the user will be clicking the back button, and we can see what are the different callbacks that is called from onResume. So in this scenario, the application is in foreground, which means that the application is in onResume callback method. Whenever the user clicks on the back button, the application will be going into onPause, then to onStop callback method. Finally, it will be calling onDestroy method. So for providing different, this is the one scenario. Sorry. And other special case which we have discussed in the last session is the application will be in the foreground and the user changes the orientation of the application. So suppose now it is in the portrait mode, and the user changes the orientation to landscape. So in this scenario, the application which is in onResume, which will be destroyed. So it will be invoking onPause, onStop, and in the onDestroy, the activity will be destroyed and it will be recreated, and the new task will be created. It will be calling onCreate, then to onStart and onResume. In such scenarios, to provide better the user experiences, say suppose the user is filling some registration form and the orientation of the phone changes. And in such scenarios, whatever the user has given the inputs such as name and email will be destroyed, and the application will be asking once again the user to enter these status, which is not the better user experience. To avoid that scenarios, we can save the data. Whatever the user has they entered, we can save and persist the data using onSave instance method, which will be called in between onStop and onDestroy method. So even if the application is destroyed, we can restore the data from the bundle object, which is sent in the onCreate method. So that was the special case that we had discussed in the last session. So whenever there is a orientation changes, the application will be destroyed and it will be recreated. So to provide a better user experiences, we'll be overriding onSave instance method, and we'll be storing the data. And in the onCreate method, from the bundle object we can retrieve and provide better user experience. And this is in brief about the lifecycle of an activity component. So you can play around this and you can understand how the different callbacks are invoked in different scenarios. Thank you. Have a great day.